Good evening, folks. Hi, Chris. How's it going, mate?
That's bad news on yourself, Phil. Long time no see.
Jeez, it's been a while, hasn't it? But we're back.
We are back with a bang, my friend. Back with a bang. Let's bring it on.
Welcome to WhiteWalkers Craic and Chat, part of the ThreeBOD group. And tonight we're really just going to have a easy in and discuss. We've a lot to catch up on, haven't we? But we're going to try and keep it to this season. Have a chat about pre-season signings, which won't take long, but and then some of the games to date. We'll let you know a little bit about what we plan to do going forward with future shows. So that's really about it tonight. But we do have things planned for future shows, videos to show you, people to bring in to talk to you. We will get back on the road. It's just we're having a slow start because it has been a long time yet.
It has been a long time, and also we have been without our leader, the fine Joe Shep, and it is great to see him back on his legs and making damn good recovery. So big hands up to the NHS and the guys down in South who have given him a big road to recovery. So absolutely phenomenal to see the big man back on his legs and doing really well.
Certainly is. And White Walker 1 is still around. He's in the background tonight. He's producing the show, ably assisted by the same Joe Shep. So if anything goes wrong with the video tonight, folks, not our fault.
We know nothing. We know nothing.
Nothing to do with us. So I think that's probably why the video is late tonight.
Sure, not a doubt. But you were saying, I'm not going to get into it now, but you know, some really big news about that one signing and the sort of the additional signing from Zebra for in our second row temporarily. So some good stuff there.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll start off just quickly go through the pre-seasons. We had two games against the Saracens. Started off with a 21-45 defeat at home, in which I thought we had a lot of young lads on the team right enough, but we were pretty well outplayed, particularly in the second half, I thought, and it was looking very bad for the week later when a complete surprise happened, and Ulster went out and completely tanked them, frankly. I remember watching that game online and thinking, wow, what happened there? That was strange, but we'll have a bit more of that on the other side later on. But it was when you consider that's pretty much the team Saracens started their league with before they got their Lions back, that was a hell of a performance by the lads.
Oh, it was. I tell you, Nigel, historically we don't get on well with our pre-season friendlies anyway. You know, and we've often come away with 0 from 2, you know, and we're often not. So to come away with that big win away was absolutely phenomenal. For us, you've got to say, it's a shame they played it where they did. You know, the ticket numbers were on. It was a Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock. It was designed that Ulster fans couldn't be there anyway, even if they wanted to. And forget the outrageous fees that they were charging for that spectacular performance. And of course, I don't think it did go to plan ultimately for Mark McCall and his boys.
It was very much a prawn sandwich brigade outing.
Absolutely it was. And I don't think our Guldren would have gone down well, to be fair, at the Royal Artillery ground anyway. Wouldn't have gone down terribly well. But going back to the original tanking, I think it done our lads an absolute world of good to just get their legs out, get their wheels turning over, you know, and just let them see what sort of big collisions were like to come, you know, throughout the year. Because, you know, to be fair, the Saris were playing some absolutely beautiful free-flowing rugby on that day. It was them almost looking where they are now. Ultimately, you know, although they lost to us in the second game unexpectedly, you know, they've kind of picked up from that first win against us, and they're absolutely flying through the Premiership at the minute. You know, with some phenomenal back-to-back wins. So our lads can really look at that second win, although it is still only a pre-season friendly, and you can't do much more of that. But if you listen to the commentary from Mark McCall before the show, when he was in the touchlines, I mean, the commentator says, you spent some time at Ulster. What did you take from that? And he kind of really said absolutely nothing. You know, I've moved on. You know, I've left those days behind. And I'm thinking, you know, that was a wee bit cheeky, and I kind of just got the cherry on the top afterwards. I was thinking, well, you should have taken more out of Ulster then, shouldn't you, Mr. McCall?
Still, he didn't do a Jake White at least, but we're going to discuss that later.
Yeah, there's a couple of those he didn't do, which is fair enough. But all the pre-seasons, and we come through them fairly much without big injury, didn't we?
Well, we did, but we seem to pick up a lot of injuries in training. I mean, that's been one of the surprising things, I suppose, with the first 4 games, is that we've had so many people out injured. They're starting to come back now. But it'll take them, I think we've seen that last weekend, it's going to take them a few weeks to get into the match fitness. Sometimes when you start bringing players back, you know, your internationals and your Lions and your big players, boys been out for a while, you can see the performance dip for a week or two until they get into the system.
It almost unsettles what they've had for the last 4 weeks. A little bit of a shift, you know, is that the younger players sort of thinking, oh, great, you know, we've got the experience in, it's going to be a different kind of a journey. And actually, you know, what is the psychology, you know, when those experienced players hit the side again. So you're quite right. We've had it with the Irish internationals, like Rory, when he came back into the side after being out for the Six Nations or whatever, you know, there was that little immediate dip in form, then we come back up. But for me, we're doing what we've always done year on year, all about the Christmas. We have a really, really good run. You know, Park up last week, is that, you know, invariably, you know, was going to be a potential banana skin of more proportion we thought. But, you know, we always have a really good first half of season.
Yeah, but we did it despite the injuries. I mean, I think the last time we had that level of injuries, we didn't win any of our first 5 games.
Yeah.
And we started to win when the players started coming back. The second half of the season was better. That year was 3 years ago.
Possibly.
This year we started off well without those players. You know, and like there was a full team of players out, and some of them are what you would call our best players. Although some of them will be fighting for their spots now, I think, but that's a good thing. Moving on slightly with the squad, well, the squad's kind of stayed very settled. We've had 2 additions. Firstly, and I'm going to put my hands up here on this one, Mick Kearney was signed from Zebra on a short-term contract because we were a bit light on second rows. And I have to admit, I was, what is the purpose of signing somebody like Mick Kearney? And, you know, made the comments like, he's not going to do much. You know, he's going to fill in a spot. I have to eat my words on that. The big guy has put himself around the park something serious, and he really has added to the team.
Oh, without a doubt. And I would, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, and I'm happy to sort of told so, but as far as I know, his Zebra contract has ended.
Yes, I thought it was on loan. That seemed to be what was reported, but I was reading there on a piece that was very interesting from him, actually, about how he fell out of love with rugby. Didn't really see a way forward, and then he got the call from Dan McFarland, and that's kind of enthused him again. It's a really good story. If you get a chance, read it. Right. And he's in on a short term, but the way he has played, I wouldn't be one bit surprised to see that get extended at the end of the season anyway, because he's not just filling in a gap. He actually has contributed to the performances considerably when he's been on the pitch. So, Michael, if you're listening, my apologies, and you didn't have to prove me wrong, but I think that was enough. A lot of people.
To be fair, he has been absolutely brilliant as a player. He's really, really hit his marks. He's hit his straps. He's a brilliant ball carrier, you know, and he is prepared to take a man on a tackle as well. So it's really nice to see him going in. I would certainly second you in terms of I'd love to see him getting that extension to his contract.
I think so, yeah. Going from why are we signing him to can we extend his contract, please? It's quite a turnaround.
Not sure what swing we've got, Mr. Quigley, but we need to work on that.
He's a big unit, and definitely puts himself about.
But the thing is, it's scrum cap as well. The fact he's wearing that blue scrum cap makes him very, very visible.
Very easy to see.
So if you're going to be visible, you've got to raise your game. Correct. You know, you've got to make sure that you are doing something.
Correct. You can see what he's doing. Actually, on that, very good point. I'd like to see Dave McCallum wear a different colour scrum cap to Nick Timoney, because I get them 2 mixed up because they play very similarly. Sometimes Big McCallum takes off and I'm thinking, go Nick. Oh no, that's Dave McCallum.
And vice versa. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about McCann's little miss of the ball when it was a sure running. Let's not talk about that just yet.
Well, we'll move on to the big signing of the year, which is Dwayne Vermeulen, who has signed for a 2-year spell at Ulster, starting after the Barbarians game. We were talking earlier on. I think the first game he's available is the Ospreys game on the 4th. Hoping he doesn't get injured. But
I mean, you only have to look at RG Sinman from Munster. He was on the park for about 3.5 minutes, and that was his first season smash. And the second season seems to be going much the same way. One can only hope in the Babas series, in the Safford series, whatever else he's got going on, that he comes into us fresh and in good order, and he has a couple of really, really good years for us. I think he's going to be monumental, probably even more so possibly even off the pitch, in terms of what he's going to do for our development of Timoney and McCann and, you know, Sean Reedy. All of our guys in the back row are going to really, really benefit from him.
He's an enforcer, mate, and he's top quality enforcer. At 35 or not, he's still got it. He's still getting into that. So he's keeping Marcel Coetzee out of the South African team.
Yeah. I think we talked about this last week when we were on the wee phone, sort of saying that he might just be the player we need with that wee bit of bite, you know, that we need, because, you know, we've had these little chats before about just there's just no apparent grunt. No one's prepared to really just pick it up by the nuts and make it go. But he is one of those guys who can get Mr. Angry if you ask him.
Well, he does it every game, doesn't he? I mean, you never see him play a game where he had a quiet one. He didn't do much. It's just in his DNA to pick up the ball, run, and knock people over. So, you know, and he's going to be a great teacher to the back rows that we have at Ulster, because we've got quite a few young ones now that likes of Dave McCann. Even Nick Timoney will learn from him, although I think Nick has come on leaps and bounds again since Marcel left. So I think he's got a lot to offer those young players, but he will instill a bit of grunt in that pack, and people will follow that. And what we need is people to follow it, and then somebody to take the lead as well. And I think Nick Timoney is an example of somebody who can do that. Dave McCann's another one. Yeah. We've got we've got good workmen in there. You're Alan Connors. I thought Treadwell, when he came in his first game, looked really good.
Yeah. We're still missing people like Izzy Chukwu and, you know, that sort of caliber player who's still very young, still going to learn a lot. Obviously, Izzy's out at the minute, which is a real shame. But, you know, when he comes back in, he's going to bring loads to that second.
That lad did so well last season, and you could see where he was going. He is going to be a big ball carrier. He's another Henderson type player, isn't he? But I think that injury set him back, but he'd be keen to come back, I think, and he'd make an impact fairly quickly. So, yeah, 2 signings really pretty, but we didn't lose a lot of players either, so the squad's fairly settled. We've brought quite a lot of young lads up. You know, we're obviously going to see an awful lot of James Hume this season. He's nearly nailed on with Marshall's absence. Marshall's going to have to fight to get back into that squad, and we probably won't see him until the new year again. You know, we've had the likes of Dave McCann's come up. He's a very promising young player, and there's players we haven't seen yet.
Of course, Ben Moxham is just sitting in anytime he comes on for his 20-second sort of, little shout. You know, when he comes on, he just looks confident. He has one massive big unit.
I'll get on to him.
We have to. We've got to give him some airtime. But,
but we've got like the likes of Robert Stewart, who's been injured, hasn't come through yet. I mean, that's a big unit of a lad for a side. For a hooker, he is big. Having said that, we still have Herring. John Andrew can't get in the team at the minute. He was fantastic for us last season because of a certain young Robert Bradley that's come through, and or Bradley Roberts has come through, and he's just taken his chance by the scruff of the neck. That's a guy that can carry the ball and knock people over.
He has come a long way around to get to where he is, and he has taken every opportunity to show his worth. And he is just one bowling ball. He is one incredibly strong guy. His line out is pretty damn accurate. But in free play, he's almost a wee bit Cian Healy-esque. You know, he can fur canter. And he's not prepared to pick it up and go for it.
His first try always gets me, where he picked up the ball in the middle of the park, looked around and went, "Really?" Boom. And I'm going to pick us up for a minute, Nigel. So, who has been your standout player of the year for Ulster after these 5 rounds? Let's just get the nitty gritty. Who is your standout player so far? It's very easy to sort of pick out the likes of Nathan Doak, who really has come on. He probably is the standout player, but we'll discuss him in a wee minute. Just a couple of things that I think people forget about him. Bradley Roberts has definitely been one. I think so far, I suppose the biggest revelation has been Nathan Doak. We have to say that, but I want to caveat that, which I think Dan has as well. Harry's mentioned Nick Timoney. Well, Nick Timoney's a top try scorer in the league so far, but I've got to be honest with you, that doesn't surprise me. We've seen the development of Nick last season where he came through after Marcel's departure, and he's just kicked on, and that's fantastic to see. I mean, in the centre of the park, we've had pretty much Stuart Muir and James Hume. Stuart's not as good a start to the season as we've seen him play last season, and that's not all his own fault, but We haven't had that enforcer centre. Big Stu McCluskey been missing. That's another subject we will come on to. On the wings, we've had young Ethan McElroy, who has really stepped up. But all these young lads have things to learn. He's another one there's a couple of things he does that kind of puts him in trouble at times. We obviously got Will Addison back for a very short spell before he was unfortunately injured again. And he looked like he was back to his old class best. And it breaks my heart that he doesn't get a few games because we know what he can do. So I suppose you have to go Nathan Doak as a new lad coming in, given he's 19 and he's started all these games and he's done really, really well for us. But I think a couple of things about young Nathan. That guy's got the world at his feet. That's the talent he's got. A wee bit white line fever. We saw that in the Kings game particularly. And I think he got a bit mugged at the Connacht game and didn't know what to do about it. Although I think his forwards could have done a lot more for him on that. But I suppose you have to say from where people are in game 1 to where they are in game 5, it's got to be Nathan Doak, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I was interested you completely missed Gilly out there in that discussion on the back line because Gilly is back to his old self. I think defensively, stealing balls near to go over the line, he's back. But Nathan Doak, I think he was almost found out in that Connacht game. I think they have really, really done their homework on him, and that is probably that little bit of immaturity. He is, without doubt. He looks he's got all the time in the world in the ball. He's got all the time in the world to make his clearance kicks, and his box kicking has been absolutely on the money throughout the year. His place kicking has been absolutely fantastic, and we missed a couple on the last game out. I just hope that he is completely protected by Dan and his dad as well, because the media have already grasped him. Gusher, Jim Neely compared him to Ruan Pinar on his, I think it was his second game out. I think he's going to talk about him as PR-esque and so much. I think that will come in time. I just hope that he continues to absolutely put the miles in backstage and stuff that we don't see.
Absolutely.
And really, I mean, he's got mugged a few times throughout the season across all games. I think there's been at least 1 or 2 occasions where he's been absolutely caught short, but that comes with time. And you can see, although Shanners has always been our second 9, whether it's to Ruan, whether it's to Cooney, he's slotted in the second behind Doki already. But you can just see that little change in pace, the decision making, the wee bit more bite, just sharper all around, even though he's sitting in second place to Doki at the minute. I just wonder, should Dan in the first 4 games, when it was apparently our easy start to the season, which I really dispute with the whole starting off with Glasgow Warriors to kick our season off. But I just wonder, should Dan McFarlane have had a look at someone like Lewis Finley in those 4 games? So if, for example, Cooney stays out injured for a wee while longer, which we don't know what's really going on, if Doki had been selected for Ireland, even as a sort of development player, we were technically stuffed for any game time fully match fit players in terms of 9. With Shanners only getting bit part plays, and of course our young Finley getting nothing.
We don't have any contenders in the halfback positions now, and I think that certainly was put to bed after last weekend, because even though we're playing behind a retreating pack that weren't working well, we had a 9 that was under pressure the whole game. That'll mean nothing. Burnsy didn't have a great game, and it's probably the worst game he's had for a while, and he took some stick at the weekend, which, by the way, folks, is not fair. I hate to see this player assassination. I've seen it done with Billy Burns. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the comments. I've seen people call for Dan McFarlane's head, which is go and stick your head back in a hole, for God's sake. Gee whiz, we lose 1 game and it's doom and gloom and they're all bloody slitting their wrists. Idiots, stop it. But we were definitely mugged by Connacht, and we can mish and mash around the games. We're going to do them in order, but the Connacht game is probably the most important one, because I think they're right. I mean, bar the Glasgow game was not an easy game, and Glasgow are going to give some teams a hard time this season. There's no doubt about it. They've started off quite well. We were rusty, so were they, and it was a very tight game. But fair play to them; they came to play. We probably got it a little bit easier in the next couple of games. And the Lions game, personally, I think we left 3 tries on the pitch. And I think, sadly, young Dokey left 2 of them there. And we can talk then about young Dave McCann. But then we faced, which was the sternest test, which was Connacht. No, I don't mind discussing that game a bit more. The dogs on the street knew Connacht were going to come out like a man possessed. I mean, they probably rightly felt a bit let down by the officials the week before.
Yeah,
especially with the game being decided right at the end. And I watched that. My opinion, he was offside. Just my opinion. And I think the Connacht fans were rightly annoyed at that. But they were always going to come out on fire. Yeah. And boy, did they. Now, I'm going to try and level things out here. I did feel on the fringes of the rucks, their forwards were offside quite a lot. They obviously decided to target Doak. He was not the weak link in the team. He's the inexperienced link in the team. Yeah. And they targeted him. And it worked. Yeah. But quite often, there was no back foot in some of those rucks. And there's a couple of times you could actually see their defenders just standing, and they literally just had to grab across and grab them from the side. Yeah. And they got away with it. And that's not Connacht's fault. You push the fringes, you push the law, see what you can get. The officials don't pick it up. Then you have to deal with that. And that's where Ulster failed big time. Their pack did not protect Doak at all.
Absolutely.
They just kept doing what they were doing and not realizing, hang on a minute, they're absolutely stifling our halfback game here. We need to protect this. And they didn't do that. And I think that's where it went wrong. And they just got the grip of the game, and that was it.
The momentum that they brought in, but they brought in big momentum. They brought in really hard collisions. They were going in to win that game. There's no question. They obviously, like you said, were aggrieved from the Munster game, but they'd also had that hard game already behind them. Right. They were already match fit for that kind of collision, which you could argue we haven't had that prep leading into that game.
Oh, I know. Look, congratulations.
I'm going to say something controversial. I've said this already. I got slated. Andrew Brace, for the whole 80 minutes, didn't have a particularly bad game.
Not particularly, but as I say, they had a rush defence, which again, you take a step back and you turn that defence, which they actually did in the first half. Yeah. If you can't break through a defence, you turn it.
Cool.
So many options you've got. You either run through them, around them, or turn them. Cool. And Ulster didn't do that once they'd got put under a bit of pressure on their own defence ball. And then, we talk about the intercept tries. Well, that's a sign of a team throwing the ball wide in desperation to try and get some space. Then you're open to those intercepts and things going wrong, and that's what happened. But I did feel they targeted Doak, and it worked.
Yeah.
Listen, congratulations to Connacht. They were superb. They were superb.
Yeah.
I think any team would have struggled to beat them the way they played last Saturday.
We had that discussion.
But there were things Ulster could have done. There were things Ulster could have done to protect Doak more. And it may have meant putting 1 or 2 more bodies in the ruck. It may have meant putting 1 on each side to stop the guys coming around. So that if somebody does come around the side, you take them out. You take them out of the game. But they didn't do that. And they seemed to want to keep outfield runners, which wasn't really...
We ended up actually, on too many occasions, we ended up with a runner with absolutely no support, almost back to similar plays. I'm going to say maybe even back to... maybe even as far back as 2018. That was very much what was happening at parts of that season. Literally just one after another, one-off runners with no support and just being jackaled over. The turnovers in that game from Connacht were absolutely...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not saying those decisions on the fringes cost us the game. They didn't. But I was talking to a South African guy, and he thought they did. He watched the game, and he said, he says, your scrummy was getting murdered in that game, and the ref wasn't protecting him. Well, the bottom line is we've all played games like that, and if the ref ain't protecting them, it's your job to protect them. Your job to give them the cover that he needs to get the ball out. And
unfortunately,
didn't do that.
Unfortunately, with Doak being targeted and Billy Burns getting slow ball or clumsy ball, if you want to call it that, for the want of a better word, it made Billy have a very, very difficult game. So if your 9's not playing well, your 10's going to get massacred. And that was kind of a byproduct of the pressure they were putting over the 9.
Got to say as well, though, again in this game, and it's an indication. Now, if you look at all the stats in that game, like in the second half, they had 74% territory. Probably something very similar in possession. Somebody can maybe find that for us. But I thought Big Hendo hasn't played since the summer.
Yeah.
And he started off well and he carried well. It was pretty evident he wasn't match fit to me because he slowed up fairly quickly. And that's understandable. He's not played. Rob Balogun, I think, had the ball in his hands 2 or 3 times the whole 80 minutes.
Yeah, I hardly touched it.
The most attacking player on the park, and we didn't get the ball out to him hardly at all. There was one occasion he did get the ball, and I think he nearly made more meters than the whole team had in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, well, that was in the last 2 minutes of the game. He actually showed his step, he showed his pace, he showed his handoff, and he showed the presence that he had during the summer internationals.
And then nothing.
And then, of course, the ball got turned over, and of course, Colin ran in that final try.
I saw Colin's comment there about we lost the game in the pack, and that's exactly right. I don't think. I mean, maybe we don't agree how, but I think I don't think. Well, the Mauls weren't good, and in fact, Dan McFarlane was unhappy with the Mauls. Yeah. Now he'd be looking at more detail than we will about how they set them up and how they drove them. He was completely unhappy about the Mauls, but I think it's more than that. I think it failed in the middle of the park, Colin, and in the 22, and we didn't give our halfbacks any protection or time to think about plays and set up plays, and they ended up just throwing the ball at each other, hoping one of them would get a gap, which wasn't happening because Connacht defend well as a side. That we played right into their hands. I actually remember I was watching it with a mate and quite a few beers and shouting at the screen because the ref hears you from home, doesn't he? And I said we must not get sucked into Connacht's game here, and we totally did. They dictated the game completely. By
half time, I was still confident we were going to come out firing and we were going to win. With 60 minutes to go, I was still confident. And I don't know what happened at 62 minutes-ish. It started to wane in terms of confidence for me, and that's unusual.
I think by 60 minutes, I thought, no, we're not winning this.
But, right. Think back, when was it that we went to Thomond Park and got absolutely tanked 60-something, nearly 66-7 or 66-6? It was nearly going to become that kind of game. So people say it was that kind of game. I don't think it was the tanking that potentially could have come our way. I think the guys did try and stand up for the 80 minutes as much as possible.
They did. They just weren't doing it in the way they were shown to do it, and they didn't respond to what Connacht brought.
No. And I'm sure Jared Payne is absolutely ripping his hair out.
The defense wasn't great at times, I know, but to be honest with you only defend them because you don't have the ball. Yeah. And if you've got 74% territory, you have the ball and the other team doesn't. You can't win the game without the ball. Harry has put a comment up there. What about the Heffernan lifting incident, and did O'Connor deserve his card? My attitude was O'Connor did deserve his card. He came in with a shoulder, and you can't do that. But Heffernan deserved to go as well. One instance of foul play doesn't become negated by another. Yeah, if you punch somebody in the face, if you go up and you headbutt a player and he headbutts you back, you send them both off. You don't send the one that did the last headbutt off.
Right. So I'm going to say, Nigel, I didn't
Heffernan should have walked for a yellow, and O'Connor should have walked for a yellow as well.
I've got to say, I didn't think that Heffernan went beyond the 90. I thought he was absolutely level. And I, in my opinion, for what it's worth, I thought that when O'Connor went in with a shoulder, it actually led to the drop. I think his whack ultimately is why Hendy came down as heavy.
I watched the replays, mate. Seen enough of them. I thought he went above the horizontal. Not much, but he went above the horizontal, and he came down his shoulder. And yes, you can say that the O'Connor hit did that. But, I mean, that's why O'Connor went in, because he was been held up like that. I think they both deserve to walk for 10 minutes. Now, Connacht got a yellow card not long after anyway for constant infringement, so it evened out really in the end. And maybe the referee did that thinking, I really should have carded him. Right, you've had enough infringements, off you go. Who knows? It certainly didn't. It certainly didn't define the result. It certainly didn't dictate the result. It didn't influence the result. I mean, that was down to one team absolutely on it, and one team not, frankly, and not responding. So, just my opinion, Harry. Yes, I think both of them should have walked on that occasion, but that's not the way it happened. I was a bit disappointed embracing that one because it seemed that the shoulder became the big thing, and they just ignored the tackle. Them. You shouldn't do that. I mean, if one's a minor incident, one's a major incident, yeah, you can reverse it. and send one player off. But if you have two incidents where one player from each side has done something that's sanctionable, they should both be sanctioned. Send off.
Yeah, one doesn't cancel the other. So we sort of seen that differently. I was fairly confident that he was held parallel. I didn't think he got over the 90. You thought he did. So that's and that's what they're looking at, and they see what they're saying. Was it actually Bracey that said, "This is what I'm seeing"? I think he had started the game. He called them in and said, "What I seen was this." And it was nice to see him having that dialogue with the players.
He was very fair that way. In the look, referees miss things, and sometimes things don't get watched, or they think a thing looks okay. Because I know Doki and Hendo and Alan O'Connor were complaining to the ref about offsides at the Ruck. They weren't having it. I agree with them, by the way. I thought they were offside at the Ruck quite a lot. But like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what you think. If the ref says, "I'm not seeing that as offside," then you must respond to that.
Yeah. And of course, Bracey said very quickly, "I want this back chat to stop." He put it out very early. "I'm not interested in Doki's comments, O'Connor's comments. You're not the captain. Don't have a chat with me." He literally tried to get that started because it was in the first 7 or 8 minutes, he was getting barrage of everybody.
But he fell out with both teams over it.
Yeah.
That was a good thing. In fact, he fell out with Connacht first. He was a bit fed up with their back chat, and then I think it was young Doak had a few goes at him. Although I kind of get it, he felt like he was being unfairly treated, and then he basically said, "Look, you need to shut up as well." And but that was the right thing to do. He told both teams off, and they both quietened down.
Yeah.
And that needed to happen because there was too much back chatting from across the board. The lack of invention, especially from Billy Burns, same as with Billy's not played to the way we see Cam. I don't really know. I'm going to be honest with you. I think in 2 games this season, Billy Burns has played with an injured ankle. He got hurt, and was it the first or second game?
The first game against Glasgow, wasn't it?
And I don't think he's right. I just don't think he's right. But the problem is with obviously with Mad Dog out still, and I've heard nothing about what's up with him or when he's coming back. And there just seems to be still that reluctance to trust Mike Lowry. But again, Mike tends to run maybe a bit too much with the ball in hand instead of distributing at times. The criticism I've seen made of him. I think they've stuck, if Billy's 80-90% fit, he starts. Yeah. And I don't think he's been really that fit for 2 or 3 games.
Possibly not, but what's quite interesting is I actually think Billy's performance over the last 4 games have played him out of an Ireland shirt. There's no question. The guys who have been brought into the Ireland squad at the moment are miles ahead of him.
Let's make no mistake, Chris. We have no contenders at halfback in the Ireland setup currently, and I don't see that happening. People are harping on. I've even seen the press harping on about getting Doak into the Irish setup. He's 19. No.
He's way too early for it.
And when people saying, "But if he's good enough, he should play," my answer always is, "Well, John Cooney was good enough and didn't play."
Yeah.
McGrath down at Leinster's good enough and didn't play. There's all kinds of things stop people playing in this Irish.
I have to be honest. I think right now, pound for pound, I'd rather have Doakey than Gibson Park, but that's just my opinion in terms of where he's at right now.
The Cooney story is one that's gone out beyond Ireland. Okay, it's not just Ulster fans going, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
We've got Irish fans going, "What's going on?" We've pundits, ex-players around the world going, "What's going on?" Well, we don't care what's going on now. It's over and done with. The same thing could happen with Nathan Doak, because Nathan Doak's quite a forceful young player. And maybe somebody won't like playing with him, or he has the wrong attitude for somebody in there. I don't care. And McGrath's another one. Yeah. I mean, even Leinster fans will tell you they'll have McGrath on the team ahead of JGP any day of the week. He captains a bloody side, for God's sake, when he plays, and Sexton doesn't. So I don't get that one at all. I've asked quite a few Leinster fans, "What do you think's going on there?" And frankly, most of them don't get it either. They're happy that they're keeping him. And I think they prefer to see JGP off of the Ireland setup. But at the
end of the day, they've obviously, Irish Rugby have obviously invested a big money in Gibson Park in terms of his NIQ status and all that kind of stuff. So, they're obviously trying to get that back. But for me, going back to the whole Billy Burns thing, I hope that he actually gets back to the match day confidence and his health, of course, in terms of fitness.
I think Billy Burns has not been fully fit for 2 or 3 games.
But when he sparks, he can do some phenomenal plays, some really
maybe no involvement with the Irish setup will help him actually, because I think he felt the pressure of that too, to be honest with you. So he's not involved now.
Exactly.
Like, you know me with Ireland selection, and I know I'm not popular with a lot of Ulster fans. I couldn't give a damn if they didn't pick one of our players. It means we have them.
Exactly.
And you know, I'm happy for everybody else to argue over the positions and leave us out of it. But it's actually going to help him, I think, because I think he felt the pressure of trying to play for the green shirt and play within that system, and it'll help him, I believe, to get on with his own game at Ulster. You know, but he needs to be. We've very little cover at 10 at the minute. Although, you know, yes, we know Curtis can play 10, but he's bulked up and become a centre, hasn't he? We've got Mad Dog, who hopefully will be back soon and would probably arguably start at the minute. Stephen's just putting up the very point I've mentioned there. But Billy fully fit and fully motivated, I think, is still our first choice 10. Where that leaves Mike Larry, I don't know, because he's made it quite clear that he wants to get into the 10 shirt, and he's had a couple of goes at it. But what does that mean? Is he not trusted enough? I think he has taken the ball into contact a few too many times, which he's probably taken from his fullback.
Well, I was going to say exactly that. When you see him come on, okay, a completely different style. He knows he's quick. He knows he's got a real injection of pace. You know, and he trusts his feet. But in doing so, he's not necessarily seeing what's outside him. You know, he's not necessarily playing the heads-up rugby and seeing that a little chip through is actually the play at that time. And again, maybe because he's a wee bit rusty from being stuck out in the 15 shirt for over a season. You know, so I think is Laurie one of the ultimate utility backs in terms of he can play 10, 15. He could be on the wing if we're really stuck. Or does he really just say, this is my position, this is where I'm going to stick to? So when he was winning the Schools Cup,
he's maybe not getting that choice, though. He's maybe not getting that choice, you know. And he's actually played really well fullback, let's be honest. He has. But, you know, fullback is a position, we don't have a dedicated fullback with Will Addison out. And now it looks like Will's injury is not, it's just gotten that the guy's injured again, but it turns out it's a fracture. It was reset. There's a good chance we'll have him back in the new year, I would think. 2 to 3 months.
I mean, it's a typical fracture. You know, so had that have been an Achilles or an ACL, it would have been a season. But yeah, all being well, mid-January.
I would say we'll see him in the new year. And of course, by then we will have the likes of QUIGLEY coming back. We will have Luke Marshall possibly. I think Luke Marshall's due back in the new year as well. We're going to have a lot of choices. Talking about centres, and we were talking about a young fella earlier on, and it's Ben Moxham.
Yeah.
I was at the Lions game, and he came on and actually played centre. And he was standing. I was up at the memorial end and right down the pitch, and he was about 10 meters from me. I couldn't get over the size of that guy. For that guy's age, he is some unit. Yeah. And you know the first thing popped into my head? There's Stuart McCluskey's replacement.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got every opportunity, you know, and if he works alongside Hume and McCluskey, those skills, those little soft touches, those overhand passes that, you know, Big Stu was trying to get those off the weekend. They just weren't always working. But he has every opportunity with that sort of size of just a real tanking player coming through.
Well, Big Stu was probably one of the only players that was making his ground, but he was getting isolated and caught too. The support play was poor last weekend. That's back to that game. But Moxham's an international sevens player, so we know he can tackle. We know he can run. He's quick. I didn't realize how big he was until I seen him in the flesh. Like, I mean, that is a big unit.
I thought we were lucky. We got to see him a couple of times in the A's over here, you know. And in the A's, you're going to get that wee bit of space, you know. And the counter on him is just phenomenal for someone that size, you know. And if you've got someone, and we know Michael Laurie will tackle anything regardless of size, you know. But we've seen Moxham taking on, you know, players the size of Michael Laurie and just literally being, like Lumo out of the way is probably the best way to describe it. Just. Massive handoff.
When I look at him, and I see centre, it's just the build of him, the size of him, the speed of him, and I go, geez, that guy will cut through defences. That's a big lad. He's only 22, 22.
Young lad. He's like a bit of a Jimmy Roberts kind of size and shape.
He's a
it could be the crash ball.
Fella. So I'd like to say, and let's be honest, we've got wingers. We've got Rob Littleback.
Yeah. So is Littleback, or when is he back?
He's back. He's back full training.
So Little, Balakown, Gilly. Obviously. I
don't think Stockdale's far away either.
Stockdale's coming back pretty soon.
Yeah. Okay. So bearing on, we got these players coming back. We've got the international window coming up. Ulster need a huge response, and they've got a 3 to 4 week window now with no games. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, with the next game being Leinster at the Aviva? RDS.
For me, I think the reflection time is going to be critical. I think if they'd have gone into Leinster straight off the back of that Connacht game, I'm not entirely sure the guys going back down into Dublin back-to-back would have done them any favours. I think McFarlane, Soper, Payne, Craic, the New Zealander, yes, Craic.
Newby.
Pardon?
Newby, is it Newby?
Craic Newby. Those guys have now got some proper time to sit down and say, right, guys, let's properly analyse this. We had to look at it the way up in the bus and the way back. Yeah. Now let's go through it and just find out where did we lose our shape. Was it because we didn't have a Darren Cave / Luke Marshall in that centre to make the defensive calls? Was it, because we weren't seeing the lack of defence for Doak? Was it that our forwards were just not up to the task on the day for whatever reason? But I think now they have got a proper chance to rebuild and properly look at themselves and decide, what do we want from this season? What do we want from this season? When we go to Leinster, have we got the mental strength? The physical strength.
I think there's going to be a response. There's definitely going to be a response.
I think it's a good thing that we've got the 3 weeks downtime.
Yeah, I just don't know, but that's why I asked. I thought, see what you think on that. But I think they will respond. Now, in that time, we've got the autumn internationals. Ulster have, 7 players?
7, yep.
So, who have we got that we think?
So we've got Herring, Timoney, McCluskey, O'Toole, Hendy, Balakoon, and Hume. So I'm going to say Herring will be on the park. Hendy will be on the park. Balakoon will be on the park. I'm saying Timoney, McCluskey, O'Toole, and Hume will be water carriers and body bags.
Funny, I saw on a Facebook page there a team that was voted for and picked by Irish fans. It's one of the many Irish fans pages, and they had basically an all Leinster front row. They had Delan and Baird in second row. They had Timoney starting in the back row. They had Hume starting in centre, and they had Balakoon on the wing with Herring, Hendo. I'm trying to think there was one other on the bench. Look, there's 7 players going. 7 players are not going to play. I think we will be somewhere between 3 and 4 players playing. If we get good results against Japan and a decent result against the All Blacks, he may throw caution a bit more to the wind against Argentina, because I think obviously the big game's the middle one. Or he may start Henderson to get him more game time, because God knows he needs that. He needs more. He needs another match just to get that match aggressiveness back, that fitness. But I think, this has got to be McCluskey's last season in a green shirt. I think if he doesn't get picked, I mean, surely he has to make a decision himself and say, right, I'm out of the international game, which you can do. You can retire from the international. Yeah. I've never seen.
I'd be very surprised if McCluskey gets a selection. Other than maybe a bench, he might get a bench seat, maybe.
I don't know why they pick him and never use him.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he still goes. And that's to be honest with you. It just seems to be one of those. He might be useful. We'll take him. I mean,
I think last weekend, Timoney was outperformed by his opposite number.
Yeah. But that's one game. But that's one game. That's one game in 5, mate.
Oh, it is. But then when the pundits start looking at going, well, he did shine against weak opposition, but now he's up against
the pundits can't. The pundits, but and a lot of the media, social media, mainstream media, can't see past what happened yesterday anyway, and they never could. They're instant now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't think. I think I understand. Young Doak had a pretty poor game, and he was put under a lot of pressure. The media are pumping him up. The next big thing, Ireland's next big thing. He should be in the squad now. If he has one bad game, they'll crucify him. We know this. So it's just that's why MS mainstream media. I read it and go, well, whatever, you know, because they'll turn on the flip of a coin the following week, and they always do. They often do. So I think now the good thing about this is, of course, we'll get players back hopefully fresh, not injured. I think 3 or 4 will feature, maybe 5 if the early games have gone well. Beyond that, yeah, I agree with you. They're going to be tackle bag holders. But that's what it is. And actually, the problem is the result last week is going to justify that and say, no, those guys shouldn't be playing.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly the bottom line. You know,
like I said to you before, mate, if they don't pick one Ulster player, there's not one Ulster player they can injure. I'm happy enough. I would quite. And by the way, that's not a north-south thing. I support whatever Ireland team's picked. It's just nice not being part of the crappy fan argument when you say he should be in that position. No, we've got a better player. I tell you what, leave our players out. You 3 fight over it. You know, brilliant, love it. No, I'll never change that. If they're picked, that's for them, not for me. You know, they're Ulster players for me. Yeah. So, how do you think? Because ours don't start for 2 weeks, but obviously we're not going to have a show between now and then. How do you see those internationals going, mate?
Well,
we'll start off with Japan.
Will we beat them? I love watching Japan play. They are phenomenal flair players. They've got pace all over the place. But I think when it comes to the Ireland-Japan game, Ireland right now will defeat Japan comfortably for the first game. That's my prediction.
Right. What about? Okay, I think we'll win it. I don't know how convincingly, and we beat them last time we played, but not convincingly, really. My wonder is Andy going to pick a very strong side for Japan and not take the opportunity to give some of these guys a run and see what his best 15 are for New Zealand? Is he going to be tempted to, we need to win this, stick a strong side out, which will then, of course, be the very same side he sticks out the weekend after, which means those other players don't get a look in until the Argentina game, and then he'd probably throw them on en masse because he doesn't care about that result so much because he's building up to the All Blacks. So, yeah, I think we'll beat them. It'll be interesting to see the selection of that team will tell us very much where Andy Farrell is with the confidence in his team.
I think Farrell will put on a strong first 60 minutes, and depending on where they are in terms of that performance, I think he'll flood the bench with some young talent. So I reckon Ireland will have the game put to bed by half-time with about 10, 15, 20-point margin, and at the 60-minute, some of the young guns will get a chance to fly. But I think he'll have to play a strong 60 at least in readiness for the All Blacks because they're absolutely going to come absolutely smoking out. So
have you seen the team they've picked to play Wales at the weekend?
They're not yet.
Well, they're not taking that game lately. Let's put it
which, to be fair, I actually thought they'd play the BB Blacks on this weekend because Wales have got no players of any depth left.
They've
brought Cuthbert back. He hasn't been on the park for an international since 2017. Alex Cuthbert is back in the Wales shirt. Ken Owens went off today. They've lost their second captain. So Wales have got it, and we are there. We are going to the Millennium Stadium Principality this weekend for the Rugby Fest. So it'll be good to get to watch the All Blacks and just see what they do run out. Do they really have a second tier 15? Let's be honest.
Don't think so. Will we beat the All Blacks?
I think we'll be within 3. I think Ireland will be within 3 of the All Blacks.
I'll decide that after the Japan game.
Chicken.
And then the Argentina one doesn't really matter, but I would expect us to beat them at home. I would expect them to beat them at home. Certainly would.
What's your thoughts? In reality, put this Japan doesn't exist for right now. In your opinion, will they
think, hand on heart, Japan and Argentina, we will beat New Zealand, we won't. But it'll be interesting to see how we go against Japan. That might change my mind about New Zealand.
Yeah.
But at this minute in time, we're not at their level and haven't been since we last played them. So, you know, you got to say, even, I mean, the bookies aren't going to make us favourites, not a chance. So.
I'm trying to find a tenner for Mike Robinson. He's just offered me a bet on the Ireland game.
Right. There he is, yeah.
Damn it.
Right, okay. Can we do a quick spot now? We're going to look at this in more detail as we go forward. The Irish women didn't qualify for the World Cup.
No.
And I didn't watch all the games. I think I missed one. I did watch the one which for me was key, which was the game against Spain. And the question I have for you is, I watched them play Spain, then I watched them play Italy. And it was like two different teams. What happened against Spain, do you think? Did you see that game?
I've seen the highlights, and I didn't actually get to see the whole 80.
It was.
Did they, because of how they were going, had they won it before they got there? Did they underestimate them?
I don't know, because I've never seen the Irish girls play like that or go out with that kind of attitude, you know. And if they did, they certainly paid for it. But I have to admit, I was a bit shocked to see them lose against Spain. And what shocked me more was they then went out and they beat Italy.
Yeah.
And they beat them quite well. And Italy were beating everybody else. And I actually thought, oh my God, Italy's going to stick 50 on us here. And then they went out and beat them. Yeah. I thought, what happened in that Spain game? Because that's the game that put them out for me.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I didn't get to see all of it, you know, and I've seen the highlight reel and everything else. But there's just some of those games that just do not go your way, and it just might be one of those random moments. But it's been costly for them. There's no mistake, you know. And if we look at the women's InterPros, they've been most of them have been heavily contested. We know Ulster took a wee bit of a hiding in some of the games, but principally they have been really, really good affairs, really open, expansive rugby, some really, really good flair play, good scrummaging, you know. So when that came to the international game, you would have thought they would have rolled in the World Cup.
Now, as everybody knows, I can waffle for Ulster, like, and I can, and Chris can too. That's why we both do this. But I'm not going to talk about something I don't know. What do you know about Greg McWilliams, the new coach for the ladies?
Oh, probably less than you, to be honest.
Yeah,
which doesn't help.
This is embarrassing, and we have to put this right. He's just been appointed and taken over. And we got to know Mr. Griggs, haven't we? But he's now moved on. So it'll be interesting to see how he settles in. I see they named a squad there, didn't they, for the Irish women? Which I seen yesterday. I don't have it to hand. I don't know if Joe has it in the background. There's a few new names on. Of course, we've had a few players retire last season as well. Looking at Ulster rugby, there seems to be. I saw a thing there with our own Alana Van Staden, who was representing Estonian she plays for, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
And there seems to be a bit of growth in the women's game at Ulster club level. If I'm right, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ilse'll tell me off if I talk rubbish here. I'll get it from her, like, and Alana probably. Ulster have been a bit behind in this, catching up with the rest.
Yeah.
But they look to have a good league set up now. That could only be good for the future of the Ulster game, and obviously that'll feed into the Ireland game. Although I watched the InterPros, and we've a bit to go, but we knew we were behind the others.
We are a long way behind.
You know, we knew that.
You know, that I'm not entirely sure why that is, but certainly looking at the girls, ladies, women coming through, there is a far, far bigger focus. It is currently one of the fastest growing sports in the world, is women's rugby anyway, which is great. I was involved in coaching Bangor University ladies for a little while, which was exciting when I was at uni. You know, but that was way back in the day when rugby wasn't even a thing in the women's world. But it's going to take a while. Look, we were talking earlier on, like Robinson and I, about, you know, even the schools rugby and the men's game, but the women, rugby. It's just great to see so many young girls actually at a rugby park on the weekend, on the evening. Even when you just look at what Ulster Rugby are doing backstage and the sort of development they're trying to give us. So, who can we just jump straight on there?
Yeah.
Obviously, Niamh Jones is one of ours, isn't she? Yeah. I mean, that is just a great squad for this year. A few names I'm not familiar with, obviously from the three other counties, but you know what? It's gonna take Ulster 5 years. They got absolutely thrashed.
Yeah, you're not going to improve.
Was it 5 points to 50 against Munster in Kingspan? It was something like 5 points to 50 against Munster. I think earlier in the season, one of the InterPros.
You could just see Munster, particularly, were just that couple of steps ahead, couldn't you? Having said that, though, Gerald Williamson, who runs a brilliant page, by the way, on the AIL league setup in Ireland, and he puts up quite a lot of posts that come from clubs, and it's really good to see how many minis and youth rugby has been set up now with young girls in mind, and there's a lot more. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm seeing a lot more of them, which suggests to me a lot more girls are picking the ball up and playing. So that's fantastic to see. And
I'm just wondering if some evening we should maybe invite someone like Lynn Wilson from URSC on as both a female, one of our rugby players. She plays from Malone, doesn't she? And just have that wee bit of insight from someone within the women's game.
Well, and obviously we've got Ilse that we know as well, and we'd love to get Ilse on again and talk about Lily's game. Maybe she can drag the other half on, talk to us as well. I'll make it told to piss off there now.
Paul Marshall, maybe get Paul in from his perspective as the assistant coach.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that, and I have to admit, I'm aware of Lily's game. I'm aware of certain elements of it. I'm probably not as aware as I should be, and I apologize for that, ladies. I've been that much into the men's game. I've started to realize I need to turn my attention a bit away from that and take a bit more interest in the ladies' game, and understand the mechanics, the teams, the players, the tactics. And I have been watching it more, and I'll continue to watch it more. The problem is with TV at the minute, there's not much. You can watch bloody rugby from 12 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night now on a Saturday.
I'm going to say something, right? We went to a Welsh-Irish women's game in the Six Nations, and it was probably some of the best rugby I have ever seen. Pitch side, it was just phenomenal, open, expansive, good tackle technique, good decision making, upfront rugby. It was like they haven't had their skills taken out of them yet. They're still that really dynamic side. So it is a great game to watch. There is no question. The girls are super skilled.
Something we'd love to do a bit more this season, if we can, is grassroots local clubs. It'd be lovely to get some feedback and input from, some of the, and I'm talking about minor clubs with minor teams and junior teams and, the grassroots of rugby. I mean, obviously I'm in Ulster and I can think of an awful lot of clubs that are in there and good ones. I've played for 2 or 3 of them in my younger days. It'd be fantastic to get input from some of these clubs and even get them to give us ideas of what they'd like to see. So if you have an idea or something you'd like to discuss, if you even like to take part, let us know. Give us a shout, because we don't want to sit and constantly talk about Ulster and Ireland and internationals and the top end of the game. The whole idea is that we get everybody involved as best we can and talk about as much diversity as we can. And we're talking about the men's game, the ladies' game. We're talking about mixed abilities. We're talking about, we've got a friend in Wales, Mark Turner, who does great. He plays wheelchair rugby. We've had a lad on this very show when Joe's doing it about wheelchair rugby, or one of the Irish shows. We want to get it all in, because it's the rugby family is a huge family. It isn't just 15 guys playing 15 guys out in the park on a Saturday or a Friday. It's anybody that wants to pick up a ball. We've got Gregor Galway, who's been on our show, and I guarantee you we'll be dragging you back on again, Gregor, because that lad has so much knowledge about the game of rugby, but he can also tell us so much about what he's involved in. So any ideas or things you'd like to discuss about Ulster rugby, grassroots right up, give us your ideas, folks. ping them in, and we'll have a look. We'll have a chat, and if you want to get involved, well, we can do that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's he reading?
I was just flicking through the social media just to see if there was anything else. So Ian Logan was talking briefly about young Lewis Finlay. We touched on Lewis earlier a little bit. He did have an obviously outstanding under-20s, Six Nations. Some extensive talent. I did say to you earlier on, Nigel, in my opinion, some of those games earlier in the season, the Lions maybe, or potentially maybe the Zebra game, maybe Dan McFarlane should have brought a different sort of combination of nines to the park to give them a run out.
I think though, to be honest with you, in some of those games, like we didn't have a choice. I mean, Dan even said himself, a lot of the choices in the team were made by the circumstances they find themselves in with injuries. I don't think Dan's one for throwing caution to the wind, because the result's not all important, but you want to make a good show of yourselves. And if you throw a lot of kids out and no experience, you could land yourself in trouble. And an awful lot doesn't have to go wrong in a game. One part of it can go wrong before you're on the back end of a kicking.
Without a doubt. My point earlier was, luckily for us, Doak wasn't selected for Ireland. But we have not got a huge amount of strength and depth at 9 at the minute. Actually, match fit 9s.
No. And I don't know if Lewis Finlay's just been kept back or not right. Because, like, for example, Rob Stewart, who's another big prospect at hooker, we haven't seen him, but he's been injured. He had a bad injury and he's been out. Yeah. Aaron Sexton's another one that we haven't seen come through, and everybody's wondering why is that. And I think that is serious hype management from Dan McFarlane.
Aaron Sexton was absolutely man-marked to the T in the first Saris game. They gave him zero space.
They knew what was coming, and they watched it. But I think he wants them to progress his game a bit, because we all know what he's like. We've all seen him play. He's a flying machine. So we haven't seen him. We haven't seen Finlay, as you say, and there's one or two others haven't come through. But we've had so many senior players out. I think he's mixed it up as much as he's prepared to, given selections of people that are available. So he is trying to bring those big players back in, but as we saw last week, in some cases that can lead to a bit of a dip in form. We've seen this before, actually, in Ulster, where all the internationals have come back, they've all been put into the team, and you sort of go, God, they played better last week without those guys. We've seen that before.
Is he faster than Zebo? Yes, he is. He will absolutely blow the wings off Zebo.
Is he faster than Zebo? I would say
he is.
I would say in a straight line race. Well, actually, I've seen them play against each other. Racing 92 when he played there. Jacob Stockdale can leave Zebo on his tracks.
Yeah, pound for pound. You can rest
assured Rob Balogun can, because he's faster than Jacob Stockdale. Aaron Sexton's, he is a sprinter by nature. I mean, he holds
European junior second, silver medalist in European juniors, so he will definitely blow the wings off seeds. I think we're running out of time frame.
I think we have. How do you feel about the mini leagues, i.e. the Shields, and will they impact teams at the end of the season regarding European Heineken? Do you know what? I've been trying to work that out. I mean, obviously, whoever finishes and wins the Shield goes through, and then I think it's the rest fighting out. It's 6 games, isn't it? Does 6 games make that much difference? I suppose it could, where somebody has won more games and they're further up the table and they don't get through because another conference gets more draws and losses. I haven't really done the maths on it, but a lot of people are saying you could end up with best teams not going through.
What we need is Neil McKeown. He will know what's going to happen here.
Neil McKeown's a guy to ask, actually. Yeah. I know. And if you want to know when anything's on television, ask Neil McKeown. But it is strange, because there's kind of 2 competitions in one, isn't it, really? But the bottom line is you got to finish in the top 8, haven't you, to get Heineken Cup. So, so for example, had Connacht lost against Ulster on Saturday, which did not look close to happening, let's be honest, they really had to pretty much rely on the games outside of their mini conference. Whereas Ulster won 4 of those and could probably just about afford that loss. in the mini conference because we may not be going for the conference shield, but what we are certainly going for is the top 8 finish. So yeah, the games outside the shield are very, very important, because if you don't win your conference, it's where you are and that counts.
And the Ospreys victory over Munster has been massive in terms of our top 8.
Yeah, because that was because that took points away from them. They lost that game, and in fact, then the Connacht game as well, because they denied them a winning bonus point, which helped us a bit as well. But it's very tight, those top 3. Top 4 arguably is very tight now. But let's be honest, it's not the top. Well, see, the assumption is the top 4 will win their shields. They won't. You could find 3 Irish teams in the top 3.
Yeah, easily, and that's the way it is.
There's only one of them going through on the shield. But if they're in the top 8, they go through. So they still go through. So I think some strange things have to happen, I think, for the right to be there and not to be right, if you understand. I mean, at the end of the day, if you win your shield but you finish 9th, well, you don't deserve to go through just because you won a 4-team shield. It's because then the league comes into play. But it's quite complicated, I suppose. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, certainly those 4 wins and 4 bonus point wins could hold Ulster in good stead, but it really will depend on how we react to what happened last weekend. Yeah, maybe you're right. The 3-4 week break will maybe do no harm. I've no doubt they'll respond. Whether it's good enough, we'll have to wait and see. Right, mate. I guess it's time we wrapped up.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to have a long step again.
Yeah, well, tonight was just a catch-up chitter. Really, just with so much to discuss and catch on. We've a bit more coming through in the coming months for next month and the month after. We'll get more people involved, and we will just then be catching up on what's happened in the last month, so we can put a bit more in. Folks, delighted to be back. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your points. It really does. You're probably right, Harry. it really does.
Thanks, Harry. What a way to finish the show, buddy. Thanks.
It really does. It really does give us
Ulster. That was out. They misspelled Ulster.
It really does give us topics to chat about and mention, and again, because we want to hear what you have to say and comment on it and get your views and answer your questions where you ask them. And I don't quite understand what Joe's saying there. What's he talking about? 81 minutes. I don't know. That's gone past me already, Joe. But listen, brilliant to see you all again. Thanks for taking part. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our sponsors, who Joe will put up at the bottom. I'm one of them, actually, Auto Door Solutions, but I'm not really going to plug myself here. Let it do itself. I think it's Kane Echo Biltong, and it's probably Coffee Dog. Would I be right? There we go. Yeah, that's it. Look, thanks very much for joining in, and we look forward to seeing you in a month's time, and we'll get talking to you again. Get your ideas in. Let's get some subjects you want to hear. Okay, folks. Brilliant. Chris, thanks as always, mate. Brilliant to see you.
Thanks for having us on. Cheers, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.